Welcome to the Healing Manifest podcast. My name is Elijah, and this is,
Bonita.
and we are back. And I'm so excited to be back again. And the first episode I found was so great doing with you, and just
Agreed.
bouncing off of each other. It's been going great. I appreciate you so much, honestly.
Oh, I
like,
appreciate you.
and like
Truly.
you coming in just helps so much. And like, how was it like for yourself? Because this is the first time doing like podcast stuff. How was it for you?
Nerve-wracking, but super exciting because I'm able to talk about things that I'm really passionate about, and having you to bounce things
Mm-hmm.
off with, and have deep conversations, and hopefully, changing
Yeah.
lives, like for anyone who's watching. I think it's really inspirational. It just makes me feel really good about what we're doing here.
That's where like I knew like we literally met. I want to say a week or two before the first recording, and I was like, "She's the one. She's the one. She's gonna be great for this." I was like, and like I knew as we went, I was like, "Okay, we're gonna literally be learning so much with each other." And at the same time, I knew I was like, I seen your platform as well. Love the content you make on your TikTok, and I
Thank
was like,
you.
how could I ask for someone that's better at this point? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I do want to say as well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I do want to say like looking at the beginning of the podcast and seeing everything starting, I really want to appreciate as well everyone who listens. Like the first 100, 200 people who find us and they listen and they enjoy the podcast. Some of the most, I feel like, important, integral people to the start. And they're the ones who are really going to be able to be like, hey, you guys here, like, this is something that's a great pod. Take a listen to them. And those people are going to mean so much. And I'm manifest and I visualize it in my head so much of seeing this go from like 50, 100 views to there's going to be a time when I hit 20,000. And I think we all see channels that hit like a million like views on a page or whatever. But I feel like even myself, the day that this hits 20,000, I'm going to feel so happy with that. You know what I mean?
I think it's important to really be intentional with focusing on the little wins,
Yeah.
because then you're always just waiting for like when I hit like 20,000 or 30,000 or 100,000, then I'll be okay. It's just going to go higher and higher. So really be about like being intentional and being so grateful in that moment.
Yeah.
That's really important for anything, I think,
Like
in
so
life.
much people will start on say YouTube for example and just hitting that first time that you see a $5 check. Like you already did something that so many people strive to do, and you managed to do that.
I remember because I do photography on the side.
Yeah.
So my first gig, I had a check. The girl gave me a check. I still have that check in my wallet, and it's just, really savoring and taking in those moments.
Yeah.
Just makes you feel, just I don't know,
It's
great.
like I did it. Like this is
Yeah.
something, and that's where
Yeah.
I feel like that work that you put in yourself, like outside of like say having a 9 to 5, like it's a great thing. Like no disrespect, I feel like people need to appreciate people who do 9 to 5s more, but
I agree.
I do think there is something about like when you do something like you do a craft or art or something like that on your own and you get that first one, there's something like it's a different feeling. I feel like it's a different feel of joy, and like I just like those first people I appreciate so much.
Agreed.
And it really makes me think too, like as I think of those first people and like you literally just said yourself, like enjoying those small wins. And it's been one of those things I've been thinking this week about the joys that we chase, the happiness that we have. Because it's even for myself so easy to kind of just think to myself, oh, the million views, touring all around the world, doing all these things. And it's a great thing to think about. I think everyone should like manifest the utmost for yourself. But when you think about, am I only going to be happy when I hit that? Because if I'm only going to be happy when I hit that, I'm not going to enjoy when I hit that 20,000. I'm not going to enjoy when I hit that first $20. And then what happens? Do you quit
Yeah.
because you're not enjoying those small wins?
I think like even right now, like the gratitude journals are so big right now. And if you just look at it like from a wider angle, you'll see and realize that it's all about being grateful. And the less you're grateful, the more you're just not going to be, I don't know, happy ever.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. Like, I know that you have to, like, wake up. They say, like, wake up and think about 5 things to be grateful for. But you need to be so intentional. And if you're not, then it just, like, flies out the window.
That's it. It's so hard. Like, do you feel like, cause I've never done a gratitude journal myself before.
I have, like, 10 at home.
Like, hey, babe, I
So
might
the
have
thought is there, but the doing part I'm still
Yeah.
struggling with. I won't lie.
like, what's the longest you found yourself getting in that habit of doing it?
I'm gonna be really honest. Maybe like 4
4 or 5, like
4 or
days?
5 days,
Yeah.
maybe.
How is it like? Because listen, that's still an accomplishment. I think at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like, how is it when you hit that like third or fourth day? Because that's what even alone I try to think about. When you hit that third or fourth day, do you try to think of something different that you're grateful for, or is it like you try to be consistent? Just a matter of just being consistent of having 5 things.
No, I think when it comes to conversation and thoughts about being grateful for, you really need to like think about all aspects of your life and just even the smallest things like everyone knows by now I think that I love my nature walk. So even just walking outside and just looking at the trees and just seeing how blessed we are to just have such beautiful things that are for free, like just really anything for like being here with you and sitting on this nice comfy couch like you know what I mean. It's just like the little things that we really take for granted.
Yeah.
And when you're out and you're walking and you see people that are homeless and that people that are homeless have people who love them and they're in these situations, and you think about that and you're intentional by looking at them, not turning the other way, but like looking at them and seeing their face, like then in a sense you'll become grateful because you see where you are, and it just humbles you a little bit because anyone that can happen to anyone.
And what's funny is like it hits me like say it's fact because I grew up in a household where we didn't have much, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, one thing that we always knew we had was each other. And it really taught me that that's one of the most important things you can really have out of anything.
Really is.
Anything can be given and taken to you in this world. And it's like a saying that I was always raised on is whatever God giveth, God can taketh. And it's just a thing of, yeah, like I said, we're sitting here on this couch. Be grateful for this.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen. Anything can be taken for you. God willing, I have everything, still in order, right? But everything given can be taken. And I was catching myself because I think I always say to myself, I want to dream to the point that it scares me. I want to dream to the point that what I'm thinking of, people laugh at the idea.
I can see why you think like that.
I like to think that way because it makes me say, you know what, let me strive for this. Because if I tell myself that's the goal, I am now going to push myself as far as I can. And if I don't hit that, at least I put in that extra effort to get to where I do get to, right? And I visualize so much. And I caught myself recently where I was like, ooh, I would love to have like this designer kind of like clothing, whatever, right? And then I realized I was like, do I want the designer clothing for that in the moment, like feeling,
status?
Yeah, that in the moment status and satisfaction. Like, am I really gonna enjoy having that like a week later, right? Mm-hmm. Is this now? Have I put this as a what's the word I'm looking for? A pedestal. Mm-hmm. Have I put this now at a pedestal for myself where it's gonna mean so much when it's not gonna mean that much in the end, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess that's getting joy from something that's superficial, I guess, in a sense. Something not that buying brand name clothes is superficial, like I do have certain items that I like to splurge on, but if you're depending on just items like that to make you happy and to make you feel good about yourself, obviously I don't feel like that's healthy.
It's what you're exactly. It's what you're choosing to let yourself get dopamine from. What you're choosing to let be that spring of endorphins for your mind, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let me catch myself and recognize, okay, is this what's gonna do it for me? Is that really the thing that's gonna matter a lot in the end, right? And like I've had to catch myself a lot of oh, okay. Because here's the thing that you allow to put to a pedestal, I believe, to give you joy, that's the same thing that's going to be able to be used against you. That's the same thing that's always going to be
Have control over you.
have control over you.
Very true. That's the scary thing about, relying on someone else to bring you joy and happiness and fulfillment. And I think it's such a dangerous thing to place in someone else's hands, because literally you have no control over their emotions, how they act, how they feel about you in 5, 10, I don't know, 20 days, whatever, like that's why it's so important. And I know might sound cliche, but to like truly love yourself and see all the great things you have within, and just take yourself on those, little dinner dates, or even a walk by yourself, whatever, like, or even shopping, doing things by yourself. Because when like family, obviously if you're relying on family to make you happiness, they're always going to be there for you for the most part, right? But when it comes to relationships and friendships, I think it's really iffy to rely on someone to provide that happiness and fulfillment all the time.
And I remember when we very vaguely went over the conversation of this year. You were talking about the relationship aspect of it as well, and I really liked that aspect as well of it that you touch on, because you're so right with it of like, there is the aspect of the material, but there is the aspect as well, I think, that doesn't get talked about as much, of the person, the physical, that we allow also to be put on a pedestal for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I remember myself, like, I'm be the first one to be completely transparent and vulnerable here. High school, I was a simp. I will say it, I was a simp. I was like the cheesiest lover boy. Like, here's the thing though. Here's the thing with it that I learned. I was a cheesy lover boy to the point if there was a girl I had a crush on, I let that be like, oh my, like I need to give everything for this person, everything, and I put them at such a high pedestal, and I had to learn eventually, like, I'm literally putting a person on a pedestal and allowing this person to be this person to me.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of I put someone to a pedestal that's not putting me on a pedestal as well.
Okay.
Where, like, why am I doing this? And I actually it's funny, I was thinking about it not too long ago, and I realized it was literally just, I was reflecting the needs that I wanted. And I wanted, like, this kind of affection back to me, just how, like, with everything I grew up with, right? I wanted that to me so much that I was putting that to someone, hoping that they would give that back to me. And that's something that I had to realize I had to fix for myself, right?
Yeah. And the thing is that not everyone loves the way you love, right? Mm-hmm. So you can just give and you can be the most selfless person, but that, like, we all have different love languages, and that's a whole other thing, right?
Oh, 100%.
But that's a hard thing. But I wanna go back to the simp thing, okay? Well, let me track back for a second, because first off, what's the definition of a simp? Second off, two-part question here. Second, when did showing your love and being caring and just being showing love, person, like, why is that being labeled as a simp? Like, I don't understand.
You're right. So here's the thing. So here's where I will say there is that fine line between the two. Me, when I was in high school, I was very much, I wouldn't even been in a relationship with the girl, and I would be like doing all the utmost.
But what's the problem with that?
Here's where it's a problem. Because it was like, they weren't, if someone's not interested in you, and you're, like, essentially getting to where you're love bombing and you're doing things, making sacrifices for this person.
Okay.
And they have not shown any reciprocation. That, to me, is when it's a problem. That's when you're literally doing this because you're hoping for something of a return. You're doing this because you want what you envision a person is without knowing who this person even is yet.
Okay.
You could be doing all this because you have all this in your head of this person could be this, da 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 da. You don't even know what this person wants themselves yet, or how they are themselves. So you're doing it out of that. But when it's someone that literally cares for you, and you guys reciprocate the same amount of affection for each other, to do the utmost, there's no issue with that. My fiance, I'll do the utmost for her, and I'll like everything that would be, I guess that's literally how I would put it. Like everything I would literally do for my fiance to this day, anything that I would think of I would do for a fiance. If you're doing it for someone who is not interested you in at all yet, reciprocated nothing for you at all, that's where it's kind of, I guess, that fine line you would say.
So that's a simp.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Noted.
I don't know if that word is YouTube banned or whatever yet. I will find out and censor it if anything, but we'll find out. We'll see.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I feel like I've always loved really, really hard, but I'm a Taurus, so I don't know. Like that's just, I don't know if everyone like fucks with zodiac signs and stuff, but that's just, I don't know. I feel like it's just part of it. Like I just go all in. Like there's not like half-ass thing. It's like all in or not. Like leave me alone. Like don't play with me in my heart.
And have you ever like the way that you yourself are, you usually, like you said, you're a very loving person. Have you ever caught yourself in a scenario where you were like, I'm giving this love to someone, and I guess in hindsight, when you think about it, you're like, I'm not getting it reciprocated at all.
At all. Let me think about that. I think I know I've been in a lot. I haven't been in situations where I wasn't getting like love at all back, but I've been in a lot of, I'm not going to lie, I'll be very transparent too. I've been in a lot of relationships that haven't been the best for my mental health, for my well-being, for, emotionally, mentally, physically, like all above. And when I reflect back on it, it's a little difficult. I'm not going to lie. However, and I know it's going to sound cliche, but it's really shaped me into the woman, like the strong woman that I am. And, I used to be someone that was scared of putting boundaries in a relationship, was scared of speaking up. I was always like a people pleaser, and family, friends, romantic relationships, I've always been just, you need something, I'm running, like I'm there. And now I'm just more selective, and I truly do. I spent some time, I think I spent like a year single, and then I spent like 2 years single before that. And I used to be the type of person that I would jump from relationship to relationship. And I think it was because I didn't want to be alone. And then I started reflecting and realized how great of a person I was. And all of those situations that I went through in relationships taught me that I'm amazing and I deserve to stand up for myself. And when I'm starting to put boundaries, and the more boundaries I put, I think I was telling you earlier, like it's a little awkward sometimes, because when you're a people pleaser and you care for people deeply, you want to see them happy. You don't want to say no, you want to say yes, right? But I think it's important to show your self-respect, because if you don't show your self-respect, and if you don't treat yourself like well, then you're just teaching other people to disrespect you.
And it goes where it's that you were saying as well. You were saying earlier, it's like that there's that feeling of you had to be alone to realize like you had a bit of a fear.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of that, but I was teased when I was younger, and I think I said this in the other
episode.
The other episode, that it really shaped me into the person that I was. And like looking at myself in the mirror, I never viewed myself the way other people view me till this day. Like even I've healed a lot, but even then, when people are like, "Oh, Benny, you're so beautiful," and I'm like, thanks," but like sometimes
you don't know how to receive it yet.
I do, but sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, really? Yeah. Like, what? Like, what? But I'm grateful for being teased and going through those situations, because I feel like it's humbled me. I feel like there's so much more value in the inside than there is on the outside. We're all gonna get old and wrinkly.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. But it's allowed me to focus on what truly matters, and it's what's within, in my heart, my personality, how I treat people, how I make people feel.
That is actually another thing that is a very key thing of when it comes to what we put on a pedestal for happiness, right? And I was literally just randomly thinking about it the other day, and it's like, yeah, like you said, we're all gonna be old and wrinkly, and it's like it's fine, it's perfectly okay. And
It's a little scary.
what? Yes. And like, how long do we allow the compliment of our physical appearance that we know not only over like years is it going to change, sometimes for some of us weekly, the way that our body looks and how we look and everything changes. So it's like, how long do we allow that to be our physical to be put on a pedestal in terms of how someone appreciates us, right? The things that really end up lasting over time for years is the mental compliments, the things that really show the growth of ourselves. Like, for example, like you being able to hit that point where you recognize everything you were just saying. Honestly, like I was about to pinpoint one specific thing, but I literally realized so much of what you just said, of where you've come from and where you are now, and all that realization. That's so much levels of maturity that's a bit rare, to be honest.
Thank you.
And that's going to mean so much more down the line for anyone than a simple compliment of you're attractive. Like, okay, I could probably leave my house. You could leave your house and find 10 other people attractive, but are you
Yeah.
going to find 10 other people where you're like, oh, you're on, like you're growing.
Yeah.
You're actually there's part of you that's growing, right? So it's like, where do we draw these lines of I'm going to be putting this on a pedestal and I'm okay with that, right?
That's a hard one because, I do like to look my best.
Oh, 100%.
So I think it's like even just accepting the fact that one day I'm
Yeah.
going to be old and wrinkly and I'm not going to look like this. I don't know if I've reached that, like, acceptance part.
Look, you know what? I grew up with my grandpa and my grandma as well a bit too. Would just be kind of like, I'm old. I'm going to still try to look my best, but
Yeah.
I'm old. No one's good. And I promise you, of probably 60% of things that they would say would start with, listen, I'm old. This is where I am now. I don't care. And I was like, got it.
I strive to be that way.
I get where you're coming from, you know?
You know what other thing that, like, when we think about, chasing happiness and what brings you joy, just like simple, like, Impractical Jokers. Like, I don't know if anyone really messes with that show, but
Yeah.
like just simple things like that, being around people that make you happy and make you laugh, like to an extent. Obviously, you need to give the people that you value in your life and people that you have in your life space so they can work on themselves. But it's great to be around people who make you feel good and who just want to love your soul for who you are as a person, and just, make you laugh and just do more things that brings you happiness. Think about the things that make you happy. What are those things? And maybe, like, how do I say, balance.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't get to the point where it's like, no, I need this thing only, but you need to kind of.
And I don't know for like, I know for a lot of people, like this is one thing I should say grateful for is being able to have elders in my life, like my grandparents. Because I think that's where, at least for myself, I was able to learn a lot of what would really matter in the end. And it was very much seeing them at the time, like they just had their daily routine. My grandma would cook for my grandpa. My grandpa would, like, he'd have his TV. We'd watch TV together. Wrestling was a huge thing we used to watch together. And
I
like,
love that.
he'd have his friend that would come over every Saturday, clockwork. Every Saturday, his friend would come over. They played dominoes, and that was peace. And I think having a bit of that, or if you don't have grandparents, maybe even like if you're able to visit elders or something, and just see for them, because I feel like we're all. I can't remember where it was I saw this, but pretty much It's years go by, but human psychology, human cycle remains the same. So whatever they're at their point of like, I'm content with this,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna hit that. We're gonna hit that. And like, you know how much like of us at our age when we were little kids, and it was like, I will never be like this. I'll never be like my parents, whatever. I'll be like this. And now we're so much like one of our parents, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm getting a little emotional, so
Yeah. Take your
I
time.
just thinking about my dad. He passed away in 2016, and he suffered a lot. Like, he was sick. He had kidney failure, and he was just so funny, and he was just such an amazing human, and he was always so like joyful and happy, and he taught me a lot about life. Sorry. Oh
Take your
God.
time.
Um, like just his what charisma, and just like strength, inner strength. When you think about like, like being a man, and I don't know what it is to be a man, but like he had a different type of strength, because a lot of men like provide like in terms of you know working and stuff like that, but I think that's where I get some of my strength and like just positivity, was seeing him, you know, almost dying a few times, like his kidney transplants failing. I think he had like 3 or 4 kidney um, transplants that failed, and just seeing him come back from the hospital multiple times and just be laughing and joking, and um, that's definitely shaped me into the person that I am, and you know allowed me to keep like being resilient and determined, and keeping in front of my mind like truly what matters is family and happiness and joy. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I'm okay with talking about my dad. He was a great human, and he taught me a lot that when I was younger I didn't realize. And I think even my brother and my sister, you know. But yeah, he definitely taught me a lot of things that, money can't buy, and what truly matters in life. And
It's the things that you realize like this is the things that are gonna matter. These are the things grateful, and like to have that figure, like I'm happy for you that you get to have like you have that, and you got to experience so much. It's gonna mean so much for you throughout your life, and that's powerful. So like,
yeah,
huge.
even when he passed, we actually had a doctor. Doctors don't normally call, like he called the family, and he was just like, your dad was an amazing human. And we had nurses like, your dad made us laugh, your dad made us taught us so much about life. And when you hear things like that, it just makes you really proud to be someone's daughter like that.
Yeah.
Like something that money can't buy. That's a different type of joy, different type of life lesson, for sure.
And I tell you, those are the big things I think. Even as a man, like I could only aspire to be for a child. I feel like that's gonna mean so much more than me just always being on the road making money and then just being like, oh, here's $200 for school or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's always gonna mean more than just being a wallet. I think being a dad and being a wallet are two different things. I'd rather be a dad than a wallet, essentially, is what I really came down to realizing. It's going to mean so much more. And it's
For sure.
all those lessons that you are going to be able to give for your kids. Hey, you've lived a long life and you have all these things that you've learned from point A to point B now. And just being able to have that's going to mean so much more. And it's so impactful.
Creating memories is... You cannot, like, money can buy. Obviously, money can buy, like, money can buy the experience to get you there for certain things, but memories is, no one can take your memories away from you.
You know what's funny? I was literally thinking, I had an analogy that hit my head this week, and it ties in with what you're saying and what we're talking about with the appearance part as well. And I was like, I feel like there's so much similarities you could see of when you think of when you're young, that gift that you got for Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
That gift probably meant so much to you. Like, I can think of off the top of my head for myself as an example. When I got the Game Boy Advance, everything was shut down. Like, I was ecstatic. 2 years after I got that Game Boy, though, I was like, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are things that, like, it can give you the in the moment joy, but that's in the moment. Now, do we as humans want to be in the moment, or do we want to be timeless for people? Timeless comes from how we grow, and over time, those are sometimes the more important memories that we can think of. Like, I could think of some memory, like family memories, or I'm always gonna be like, that shaped me,
Yeah.
that made me who I am. That's not a Game Boy. You get what I'm saying? That's
Mm-hmm.
not the quick dopamine of like, oh my goodness, I got this. This is everything for me in this moment. But am I looking back now like, oh, is it shaping me who I am today per se versus some of the things I experienced with family? Not the same way,
No.
right?
Now that I think about it, I can't even remember like one single gift that I got from Christmas that I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible!" Like, I'm trying to think. You're talking about this, and I'm like, I can't think of anything. I can
Yeah.
think of memories
Yeah.
of funny things that
Oh,
happened, but
100%.
I can't think of any of the gifts that I got.
You know what's funny? The Christmas thing that I'll always remember is, and it's so specific. It's gonna be so really specific, but it was Christmas 2003. It was the one year where it was like it was family,
Mm-hmm.
like Christmas, and that was the one time I think I saw all of my cousins, all of my family in one day, and I was just like, that was a that to me. I think I always remember. That was the one and only time that ever happened, and that's always going to be a bigger memory than anything.
See how insane that is? That's great. That's beautiful, though. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And
I have a question for
yeah.
you. What do you think when thinking about like chasing happiness? What happiness is it okay to chase?
I think there's
Like
always going to be a thing of realizing, and I
or
think
like healthy happiness?
yeah, it's always going to be a thing that everyone's going to have to really dig deep in themselves and ask themselves and figure out what that's going to be, right? And it's really going to be that, I feel like it's always going to be that long-term happiness. And for me, at least, I
Mhm.
visualize that as having my wife that I live with, having like the nuclear family, being able to pass on all the lessons that I've had onto my children.
Mhm.
That I think is a joy I'm gonna always appreciate, and I'm okay with putting that to a pedestal of wanting my own health and being as healthy as I can be, as well to be that person. I think is something that I'm okay having that at a pedestal, and everything else is gonna be secondary.
Okay.
But yeah, it's gonna differ for like if you were to kind of, I'm putting on a spot. I've been able to think about this, so I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. If there is something that you'd be able to think of where you're like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Of what? Of
Like,
happiness?
yeah, putting on a pedestal.
I think just being financially stable.
Mm-hmm.
It's I just don't want to have to worry about that aspect. I've always had to worry about that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I have a loving family around me and I appreciate them and I'm so grateful for that, but the financial piece is the piece that would allow me to kind of be not even be rich, like just stable,
Yeah.
like not having to worry about that anymore.
I like that. Honestly, I like that for even yourself. And if anyone in the comments could think as well, uh, for themselves, what that would be if they were to really dig deep, just one thing where you're like, I'm okay putting this at a pedestal. I'm okay with that being my pinnacle. Definitely let us know. And I like how that comes in because I'm going to segue to our second segment because you got these great Wendy's coffees here. And I think no matter where I'm going to be in my life, Wendy's, Tim Hortons coffees, always got to appreciate it.
Hmm.
It is the backbone. I think Wendy's is Canadian too, is it?
I don't know.
Let me double
I
check.
should know.
If it's not, it's not. But
I love Wendy's though. Their
Wendy's, I love Wendy's.
JBC, amazing.
2 o'clock in the morning, you need a burger, fries, and a drink. Wendy's is clutch. You need like one of my directors here is letting me know Wendy's is not Canadian, but it doesn't matter. You need something at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're gonna have you. You need a burger. You need a drink. Whatever. Wendy's got you.
Like, look at the face.
This also is a small. Like this is a small, which is
Craziness.
crazy.
Cheers.
Cheers. And I'm gonna need this.
This is low key better than the Timmy's iced coffee. So
Like honestly,
really good.
it hits. And what I like, and it's gonna be such a like. Listen, this matters for me, especially someone who I have days. I'll have phases where I drink just black coffee, and it means something for me.
You're brave.
It's clear. Look, sometimes I'm just like I don't care for how all this other stuff. Just give me my coffee black. I need this for this moment, and I'll have those phases, and it matters for me. Is sometimes I like when it's clear and it goes down smooth, and this just went down smooth, and I appreciate that.
I love it. Yeah, this is so good. Like, I actually need some more.
Right. So, I wanted to say, because I love these segments where we're able to have a second bit just to talk. One thing that had me thinking as well with the earlier segment is, and I was just realizing it. I'm like, I never stopped to think. I'm like, how long I've been on this earth, and actually just putting myself in certain memories and thinking, wow. First of all, trying to think about how different their world looked at that time, and even I was thinking just now, like when I was probably like 5 years old, I grew up in. Now, if you're from Toronto, you'll know this city. If you're not, it's a developing city. It's a developing part of the city. I grew up in Malvern, like when I was younger. It's in East. It's in Scarborough.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a better.
I grew up in Toronto, but I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like North Scarborough-ish area. It's a small townish kind of spot. Like if you're from Scarborough, you definitely know it kind of thing. But I grew up over there for the earliest part of my life, and I don't know if you remember like those buildings that had like, I guess like those stained glass kind of like window looking like things that are like at the bottom or something. That they had those, and I was like, I've not seen that probably since the 90s. And I'm like, how different little things like that looked. And coffee time, I think it was coffee time or country style. Was it country style or coffee time? If anyone remembers, please let me know. But they had like these little timbits that they had too, and how they looked, especially in the winter. Oh my gosh, they hit like little things like that. And just thinking about how I live from that, and I've literally been able to, and I can't even act like I've not seen the transition to where we are now.
Yeah.
With like how AI is everything, and to technological advances, and how everything looks today, and like wow, just being able to take in like I was alive through all of this, and I don't ever really think about that.
Yeah, I have a lot of that. I don't know if I want to say it out loud because then people know my age, but like I remember when Harvey's had the best breakfast of life. I'm going to really age myself. I'll probably regret this later. But it was just, I need to talk about it. They had ice cream sandwiches.
Oh, my God.
Like, what? But so good.
Them so and Licks, too.
Licks. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's another Canadian one. Like it was.
Licks is not around anymore?
Licks is not around anymore, no. I think there's only one.
The disrespect.
I think there's only one in, like, I think it's Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. But there's only one in all of Canada now.
Really?
And it was, for you guys who have never experienced Licks or like whatever, it was seasoned. It was thick. It was one of the best burgers. And they used to have ice cream with it. And, for the fries too and everything. It was, think of what you would think when you envision what a classic diner burger, milkshake, and soda would taste like. It's that.
I like the colors. I like the whole aesthetic
Yeah.
of it. It was like very like retro
It
vibes.
was so good. And like I think about that and then I remember I'm like, oh my goodness, like how like the 2000s right now are kind of the throwback right now.
I know.
And realizing, yeah, I was like I was in school those time periods and like, wow, that's a throwback. But to me, I think of throwback and I'm thinking of like for myself when I was in high school, it was
Hmm.
very much we wore skinny jeans and like
Really?
Goodwood necklace.
Oh God. I don't even want to say what mine was. It's like baby fat era.
Oh yeah.
Like the baby fat. I thought I was all like
We all
all
thought we were hard.
amazing with baby fat and like echo red. I thought I was the coolest
Yes.
girl in the entire world. No one could touch me. And now if I say it out loud, like it's okay. You guys can come at me in the comments. Like you're old as fuck. It is. It's fine. It's
Listen, but you
fine.
know what? You can say that because you were in that era, and that's literally what it was for anybody.
It's very nostalgic though. Like even
Yeah.
me thinking back, like when I went to Harvey's and had breakfast, we'd go and have breakfast as a family at Harvey's. And now I look at Harvey's and it makes my heart warm because
Yeah.
it brings back memories of my family and just times of laughter and happiness. And it's good to be
Mm-hmm.
intentional and think back at moments like that and like places that give you that pure
That's-
happiness that you don't have to buy.
I'm literally just thinking, like, you were able to experience, like, just being able to sit back and be like, instead of just stop, because I feel like so much of us is literally, like, I feel like it hits from, like, 30s onwards, where you're like, oh my goodness, like, I'm old, like, I'm old. Instead of thinking that way, because first of all, we're not old. Like, we haven't retired yet.
Vintage.
Like, we haven't retired yet.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
we're not old. So it's like instead I'm
Okay.
thinking to think about it like we got to literally we just experienced so much.
Yeah, I gotta stop saying that.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
I'm gonna
listen,
try.
if we're old, what is the line? I guess for lack of a better word, what is the in between of being young and then being old? Because when I was 20, 22, even up to 25ish, I was young. I was in my peak. I was they try to tell me I was in my peak young years. But how do I go from being young to now I'm old?
You know what I think it is now that really think about it? It's those stupid memes.
Yeah.
They're very like I can relate to the memes, but the memes is what's making me feel like, oh no, no, it's coming.
That's the thing is this is like I feel like we're always gonna be victims in our own head of propaganda because propaganda is always gonna hit us in that little piece that we're thinking in ourselves.
True.
And then after we see something and at the end of the day we see it and we relate to it. That's why we like it. But that's how it ends up being like I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Yep, yep, yep. Ah, yeah, maybe I am. I don't know what a skibbity is, so yeah, maybe I am old. Yeah, okay. And it's like, no, you're just in a different place, and there's nothing wrong with us being in our age group. We can still do things as we want to, because at the end of the day, the things that we want to do now versus before are going to be different. But what's really stopping us from living our life, right?
Do you find like when you self reflect, because I self reflect a lot, so maybe that's why I'm feeling like that too. Because you self reflect, you're very intentional, you know what's happening, you know time is ticking, you know time is precious. So then you're like, okay, wait. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
feel like if you're on that wavelength, you're more woke. Can I say that? You know, you're just more you know what's up. You know what life is, and you know that time is precious, and
You're getting to
life
that
is
point where
precious.
you're getting wiser, and it's like, oh, am I? Maybe that's what it is. We're in terms of the entering your wise phase. We're babies in that. We're babies in the wise phase of our
Very
life.
true. I love that. I'm gonna stop calling myself old. Don't call yourself old, guys.
You know what it is? When you start calling yourself old, the more you keep saying those things, I feel like that's when you really start. Your body starts to get old. And I've been trying to like. I literally told myself today. So literally, as I was getting everything ready, and I had to bend over to like. I'll also say it's because I'm tall. Okay, so bending over to grab things that are low is not fun. So I had to bend over to grab the some of the audio stuff. And I was like, hey, this just does not feel fun for me right now. But I feel like if I also tell my dad, like, yeah, like bending over doesn't feel fun, he's going to be like, at your age, are you serious right now? And I'd have to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Valid. Okay.
But yeah, 1 second.
Bless you.
Thank you. So yeah, the third part. So for the fan question for this episode, it was actually something that a friend of mine was talking to me about, and I thought it was a really good question that they asked. I was like, let me use this as for the question, and it was the conversation was very much about having people in your life who maybe they just don't appreciate who you are or who you are now or whatever it is, but it's just how much you're able to be yourself around certain people, certain friends. Like, are those really your friends if you can't be your utmost self? Are we also at a place? Sorry, this is literally me as I'm thinking of the question. Are we also at a place where we have to learn to kind of accept how we been able to accept people for their differences from ourselves, things that we were probably going to be like, I don't agree with this person at all on this, but that's still my friend. Guess finding that balance of one us ourselves reflecting, being like, how much do we do that versus also like us ourselves feeling that we can be ourselves around the people that we call our friends or acquaintances.
I think, I don't know about for you, but I feel like each person I'm around gets a different version of me.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's some friends that I can just hang out with, I don't know, go for coffees with. There's other friends that, I can, I don't know, go to a club with or do something more fun and exciting. That doesn't mean that I'm acting a different way. It just
Mm-hmm.
means that different people bring out different sides of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And I think also being aware that you don't always have to be around people 24/7 to be friends. You can hang out with them here and there. And if someone's demanding and being like, well, you're not making any time for me, and that's not a true friend. Because a true friend is like, you can literally not talk to them for like a month. And a month later, you hang out and it's like nothing. But yeah, I feel like everyone gets a different version of me, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not me acting like I'm someone else. That's just it's a different type of vibe, right? Because there's different type of personalities that bring
Mm-hmm.
out different things in people.
And it's like, and I think it's that when you start to bounce out, because I think what happens too is a lot of us, our friend circle, it's either our coworkers or our friends from school, right? And to have friends outside of that, especially if you don't have like an extracurricular,
Hmm.
it's a lot harder. So I think having an extracurricular thing is very helpful to do that, and maybe have people that are in a circle of the thing that you feel like you're holding back of yourself from maybe this group over here, and being able to be that person, being able to express these things around this group here. And that, I know even for myself, that helped me a lot with being able to realize like, oh, like I could have this kind of conversation with you. Maybe I am forcing this conversation on friend group A over here.
Hmm.
Or maybe this is not meant for friend group B over here, but let me have friend group C over here I can talk about these things with. And then also helps me realize like, ooh, the level of which I'd want to still talk about this, or like the level of growth I feel from here, I'm not feeling from over here. So maybe I do need to introduce some of this to this friend group over here. And it does happen. And it's just that ability to have the different friend groups is so important.
I agree. Have you ever been around people where they're like not really messing with like your like journey as a person?
Yes. Like I want to answer this in the best way because I don't want anyone like feel alienated, but like I am a person, like I'm very aware of who I am, so I have a lot of very different friend groups, and I definitely felt like before I branched out and I let myself be friends with different groups, I was very much holding a lot in, and I wasn't getting what I wanted out of certain groups. So I definitely had moments myself where I was like, I don't feel comfortable expressing this side of me. But even sometimes I will be in those groups that I ventured out to. And I'll hear things because I'm a very person that likes to just listen, right? I think it's very important to listen to people. And they'll say things and I'm like, I don't like I can't co-sign this of what you're saying, right? But when you just accept, like, you know what, I can't co-sign everything that's going to be here, but let me just accept that there's things that I can talk about over here, and I'm gonna let you be you. And when there's time for us to get to the place where I can tell you, like, yeah, like I don't agree with this over here, let's mend this over here. Maybe I can bring you over to friend group B, which I think also makes it hard when I do things like having like engagement parties or like events like this, because I'm like, oh my goodness, I have friends here. Like, so this actually happened for me myself recently where I had that and I was like, hey, like I have friends that I grew up with where it's like, man, like we didn't do all the best things, to say the least, right? Without putting anyone on the spot. Like, we didn't do the best things when we were growing up, but that's still my friend, right? Bringing them around certain types of people who know nothing about this kind of lifestyle, scary. So it's like, okay, trying to figure out, like, okay, how am I going to bring friend group A with friend group C can get very scary sometimes. And it's just, sometimes you end up having to have like 2-3 outings. Like sometimes you have to have 2-3 different events for the groups that work out.
I get that, but I think if you have friends who truly respect you, respect the person you are, truly value you as a person, then hopefully that outweighs anything else. And hopefully, you know, you want everyone to come to this engagement party with the same headspace, which is like, let's celebrate Elijah and everything that is happening that's beautiful in his life. And I think as long as you have people that have that type of mindset around you, then everything will fall out the way it's supposed to. Maybe do like an icebreaker, you know, like a joke or something. And
I find for myself, and there's an extent of which this is going to relate for other people. I feel like there's a spectrum of it where there is that. And there's that level of which is like, respect me enough for my kind of day. And if you can't, like, I don't know how much we can be friends, right? Then there's also the other end of it. I have to realize of like, am I being respectful to this person and how they feel if I'm bringing them around these kind of people, right? So, for example, the only thing I could think of in my head that kind of helps like for this idea is like, imagine if someone has friends who are like occultic, for example, or they have like beliefs in this kind of way.
occultic?
Like, oh man, I'm gonna mess up the explanation of this one. It's like tarot spells, things like that.
Okay, yes.
Bringing them around someone who is a like Christian or like like they have certain religious beliefs, right? There's going to be a level of which they're going to clash. And that is just fair, right? If you're very strong on these beliefs, you're very strong on these beliefs, I can be friends with both of you guys, but to expect you to be friends with this person the same way I'm friends with this person is not going to be fair for you. So I'm going to respect your beliefs and your beliefs and maybe keep things a little separate where you could still be as much of yourself as possible.
I get that. Yeah, that sounds difficult.
Yeah. And it just, yeah, I get it where it's like, it's in so much different ways, but like, it gets, in the end, I feel like it's so important to just let yourself have different friend groups to expel these different things. But your closest friends should always, though, be like what you're saying, people where you can be your utmost self with, who are going to be those free thinkers to who you are and appreciate all the differences and similarities that you have with the person.
I agree.
And I like that there's now, like, with Facebook groups and everything, where it's a bit easier to find small groups of people who like the things that you like too, and find more people like that.
Yeah, even the meetup, I think I was talking about that the other day. Meetup?
Meetup?
No. Is it Meetup?
Is it like an app?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if it's Meetup. I'm losing my mind. Anyways.
But pretty much it's like apps, like you're referring to where like you can.
I mentioned this the other.
It sounds familiar though.
Episode. I don't know if it's Meetup or if it's like. I joined a group. It was like an women's entrepreneur
Yeah.
group, and I went there just to meet different people, right, and network, and that's how you can
Yeah.
also meet different people. And they have all
Yes.
different types of. They even have like vision board parties that you can sign up for, and
There's so much different kinds of events that when you just let yourself, Eventbrite is a great one to go on.
that's it. What is Meetup a dating app?
It
Oh
might
God.
be. It sounds familiar to me for some reason. So we're probably gonna be like exposing ourselves for some. Maybe we.
I swear I don't know why. Why am I saying Meetup? Anyways,
Anyway.
it was Eventbrite. Sorry, don't mind me, people. Any more coffee?
But yeah, like the little things. I remember I used to go to like networking events, or I'll go to like showcases when I was doing music, just to like meet people that were in the same kind of field that I was in, and it helped me grow so much. They help. So yeah, first let yourself. I guess when it comes to what we're saying is let yourself meet people who are different circles. And once you start getting yourself to meet these people, start to realize the things that you're able to appreciate in the different friend groups.
And understand that some friends aren't going to give you what you want. Like it's okay to have different type of friend groups for different types of um, needs and wants. Right? I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what you
Wants and
said,
needs,
but
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, just realizing that and just appreciating it. And then as you get that, you're gonna get to that point yourself where you're like, I can't, because there's people too. I feel like that are out there, and I've heard their perspective of as well from people like I have friends who are gay, for example, and for them to feel like they've told me like, especially growing up in their circles, and they start seeing things in those circles of like, I can't even be me. I can't be like that outside of this friend group. And when it gets like those levels, right, that's a certain end of the spectrum where you start to realize when you start having people that accept you for who you are, you start to really realize like you don't accept me. And when
yeah.
you start to hit that point of like this group here actually doesn't accept me, when you hit that realization and you're able to be around people who do accept you, knowing when it's time to cut that friend group off.
Yeah, I think that's definitely really important. If you have a friend group that doesn't respect you like that,
Yeah.
especially for something big like that.
Yeah. And yeah, so thank you
Valid.
guys again for being here for this episode.
Agree.
Again, if you appreciate this, let another person know. Help us get from, right now we're averaging, I think it was about 25, 30 views an episode. Help us get to that 100 mark. And I appreciate everyone. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.